No one supporting you is not the problem. The problem is that you still think support is supposed to come first. You wait for someone to believe in you. You wait for your family to understand. You wait for friends to stop doubting. You wait for someone to open a door. But men who build power rarely begin with open doors. They begin with proof. Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak did not wait for the technology world to invite them in. They built the Apple I first. Damon John did not wait for perfect conditions. He worked at Red Lobster while building FUBU. The law is cold. Unsupported does not mean powerless. Unsupported means no one else owns the decision. And before this ends, you will name the exact proof that makes their belief irrelevant. Because the real question is not, who supports you? The real question is, why are you still treating their belief as permission? That is the mechanism most unsupported men refuse to face. You say you want independence, but emotionally you still ask for witnesses. You say you do not need approval, but before you move, you imagine who will judge you. You say you are ambitious, but your ambition slows down every time someone unimpressive does not understand it. That is not sovereignty. That is invisible obedience. A man can be physically alone and still mentally ruled by a room full of people. His family is not standing in front of the computer. His friends are not holding his hands down. Society is not locking the door from the outside. But inside his mind, he has built a council of doubters, and before every serious decision, he goes to them for a vote. He wants to publish, but he imagines the laughter. He wants to build, but he imagines the questions. He wants to sell, but he imagines the rejection. He wants to change, but he imagines the old version of himself being judged. So he calls it timing. He calls it preparation. He calls it being realistic. He calls it waiting for the right moment. But often it is fear wearing the mask of strategy. And this is where many men lose years, not because they had no talent, not because they had no dream, not because nobody cared. They lose years because they keep waiting for emotional permission from people who do not share the risk, do not carry the hunger, and will not live with the consequences of delay. If you misunderstand this, you will lose more than motivation. You will lose time. You will lose skill because you delayed the ugly beginner stage. You will lose money because you waited for confidence instead of building competence. You will lose status because the world respects visible strength, not private intention. You will lose self-trust because every delayed action becomes evidence against your own identity. That last cost is the most dangerous. When another person doubts you, it hurts. But when your own behavior begins to confirm their doubt, something breaks deeper. You stop arguing with them because a part of you starts believing they may be right. Not because they were wise, not because they saw your future clearly, but because your delay gave their doubt evidence. A doubter becomes powerful when your inaction makes him look accurate. This is why the unsupported man must stop treating lack of support as a tragedy and start treating it as a command. No support means no one else owns the first move. No one owns your beginning. No one controls your first attempt. No one gets to define your ambition before evidence exists. No one can claim credit before proof is built. No one can say, "I made you," if you built before they believed. This is not emotional comfort. This is strategic reality. Support is useful. Support can accelerate a man. Support can create access, confidence, information, money, and protection. Only a fool would pretend support has no value. But support is not the foundation. Proof is. And the man who confuses support with foundation gives ownership of his future to people who may never understand it. Machiavelli understood dependence better than most modern men. In The Prince, when he warns against relying on the arms of others, he writes, "The arms of others either fall from your back or they weigh you down, or they bind you fast. He was speaking about military force. But the structure applies far beyond war. Borrowed strength always has a hidden price. If your courage depends on applause, it can fall from your back. If your ambition depends on encouragement, it can weigh you down. If your decision depends on permission, it can bind you fast. A man who needs belief before action is not free. He is negotiating with ghosts. He is asking people who have not built his life to approve the first brick. He is letting people who do not understand the cost of his hunger decide when he is allowed to move. And if you are honest, you know this pattern. You explain your plan to people who cannot evaluate it. You defend your ambition to people who never built anything comparable. You overtalk because part of you is still hoping that if they finally understand, they will bless your direction. But the world does not reward being understood. It rewards becoming undeniable. This is one of the coldest lessons in power. You do not get paid because your dream is sincere. You do not gain respect because your pain is real. You do not receive opportunity because your potential feels special to you. You do not become dangerous because you have been underestimated. You become dangerous when your work becomes visible, measurable, useful, and difficult to ignore. Until then, your ambition is only a theory. And people are allowed to doubt theories. That sentence may offend you, but it can also save you. Because many men hide behind being misunderstood. They say, nobody sees my potential, nobody understands my vision, nobody knows what I am capable of. And sometimes that is true. Sometimes the people around you are small, fearful, limited, or trapped inside a life model that cannot recognize your direction. But sometimes the problem is not that they are blind. Sometimes the problem is that you are still unproven. A Machiavellian mind separates insult from intelligence. Some criticism is weakness speaking. Some criticism is fear speaking. Some criticism is envy speaking. But some criticism is reality asking, where is the evidence? Do not flatter yourself by assuming every critic is jealous. That is how weak men protect their delusions. Strong men listen differently. They ask, is there any useful information inside the doubt? Is my work invisible? Is my skill untested? Is my claim larger than my proof? Am I asking people to respect a future that I have not yet made inspectable? This is how power is built, not by emotional reaction, by cold inspection. Look at Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. They did not begin with the technology world bowing before them. They were not handed an official throne in the computer industry. They were not invited by the market to become important. They built first. In 1976, they built early machines in Jobs' family garage. They raised early money by selling personal belongings. They demonstrated what they had. Then came the serious order from the bike shop in Mountain View for the Apple I computers. The order did not come before there was something to see. That is the part most men miss. The world did not open because they had potential. It opened because proof existed. A machine could be inspected, a demonstration could be judged. A buyer could respond to something real. Pressure existed. They had no official throne. Action existed. They built. First proof existed. A working machine and a real order. Then the door appeared. That is not luck alone. That is prepared capacity meeting an opening. Most men want the opening first. They want someone to say, I believe in you, before they build the thing. They want the market to validate them before they offer anything. They want confidence before the attempt. They want applause before the evidence. They want the door before the proof. But power rarely works that way. The world does not open for potential. It opens for proof. Potential is private. Proof is public. Potential makes you feel different. Proof makes reality respond differently. Potential is what you believe about yourself. Proof is what others can inspect without needing your explanation. That is why the unsupported man must stop worshipping his hidden identity. He must stop saying, "I know who I am," as if the world is obligated to agree. The world does not know who you are. It knows what you repeatedly show it. Machiavelli wrote that men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, and that everyone sees what you appear to be. Few really know what you are. This is not a complaint. This is an operating law. People see signals first. They see the results before the sacrifice. They see the product before the process. They see the reputation before the private discipline. They see what can be measured before what can be imagined. If your value is invisible, your ambition will be treated like noise. And this is where many men become bitter. They say, "I work hard, but nobody notices. I have ideas, but nobody listens. I care more than others, but less capable men get more opportunity, maybe." But hidden value is often treated as non-existent value. That is not fair. It is reality. If your work cannot be seen, it cannot create leverage. If your skill has no proof, it becomes invisible. If your reputation has no signals, others will define you by your current rank. If your current rank is low, they will judge your future through your past. Your family remembers who you were. Your friends remember your unfinished plans. Your workplace remembers your role, not your potential. Society does not have time to imagine your greatness for you, so stop asking the world to believe invisible value. Make your value easier to verify. Build one public article. Build one finished video. Build one case study. Build one before and after result. Build one portfolio asset. Build one outreach message tied to a specific problem. Build one measurable improvement. Build one proof that survives inspection. A man with proof does not need to explain as much, because the work begins speaking before he does. This is why explanation is often disguised permission-seeking. You explain before building because explanation gives you emotional relief. For a moment, it feels like progress. You get to speak as if the future already exists. You get to present the identity before the evidence. You get to feel serious without being tested. But speech gives cheap rewards. Execution gives expensive ones, and cheap rewards weaken urgency. Every time you announce too early, you expose unfinished power to people who cannot improve it. They give opinions, they give fear, they give mockery, they give false encouragement, they give attention that feels like movement. And after that emotional reward arrives, execution becomes less urgent. Not every vision deserves an audience. Some ambitions die because they were shown too early. A well-known aphorism from The Art of War states, "No enterprise is more likely to succeed than one concealed from the enemy until it is ripe for execution." Do not distort this. Your family is not automatically your enemy. Your friends are not automatically enemies. Ordinary people are not villains because they do not understand your ambition. The principle is not paranoia. The principle is timing. Unfinished power must be protected from useless interference. Speak when speech improves resources, decision quality, execution, accountability, or distribution. Remain silent when speech only seeks praise, reassurance, permission, or premature recognition. If they can improve the work, ask for specific feedback. If they only provide emotional weather, keep building. Do not ask an unqualified person to approve a future they cannot evaluate. Document the work. This is the difference between the man who wants witnesses and the man who wants leverage. The boy in you wants to be understood before he moves. The man in you builds evidence until understanding becomes optional. Stop needing people to understand the seed. Most people only respect fruit. But fruit does not appear because you were hurt. Fruit appears because pain was converted into structure. This is why being unsupported can become an advantage, but only for the disciplined man. The unsupported man has fewer emotional chains. He can move quietly. He can test faster. He can fail privately. He can build without applause. He can cut dependency. He can train self-command. But solitude does not automatically make a man strong. Isolation without structure becomes decay. A man alone with no discipline is not free. He is exposed. No mentor, no backup, no inherited network, no one coming to correct him, no one forcing him to build, no one checking whether he wasted the evening, no one stopping him from numbing himself after work. That means his habits become his government. If his habits are weak, he lives under weak rule. This is where resentment destroys unsupported men. They feel the pressure of being alone, but they do not convert it. They fantasize about proving people wrong, but they do not create proof. They imagine the day everyone will regret doubting them, but their calendar contains no evidence that such a day is being built. Resentment keeps the doubter at the center of your identity. Discipline removes them. If you are alone, build a schedule. If you are doubted, build a proof asset. If you are ignored, build distribution. If you are behind, build a daily system. If you are angry, build skill until anger is no longer needed. The unsupported man has only two options: become disciplined or become another man with explanations. Before we go deeper, listen carefully. If this is forcing you to see yourself more clearly, do not turn that clarity into another video you consume and forget. Like this video so it reaches the men who are still waiting outside the door. Subscribe if you want power explained without comfort. And use the leverage map. Depths of Psyche helps you see reality clearly. The leverage map shows you what to build with that clarity, the skill path, proof project, and execution plan that fit your current situation. If you are an unsupported man with private ambition, stop confusing thinking with building. You already know support is not coming first, but your problem is that your next move is still vague. If you keep collecting insight without turning it into proof, you will become a man who understands power but never possesses any. The leverage map is not for men looking for motivation. It is for men ready to convert clarity into skill, proof, and execution. The decision is yours. Now understand the next layer. Support is not the foundation. Proof is. But proof alone is not enough if no one can see it, use it, verify it, or trust it. This is where effort fails. Effort alone does not make a man powerful. Effort without leverage only makes him tired. Many men work hard and remain trapped because their work produces no asset, no reputation, no offer, no network, no ownership, and no bargaining power. They are busy, but nothing compounds. They are exhausted, but not more sovereign. They survive another week, but the structure of their life does not change. That is the insult most men avoid. You can be exhausted and still strategically weak. This is where Daymond John becomes useful. Daymond John did not wait for perfect conditions. While building FUBU, he kept working at Red Lobster. Years later, he described that job as something that paid bills, bought materials, and taught him sales and inventory. His idea was simple. The day job is your first investor. That is not romantic. That is strategic. He needed stability while building ambition. So he converted the job into runway. The job paid bills. The job helped buy materials. The job kept survival from crushing the business before it had proof. He did not treat imperfect conditions as a prison. He turned them into leverage. This is the distinction. If your job funds distractions, it is a trap. If your job funds skill, assets, and offers, it is leverage. The same condition can weaken one man and strengthen another. One man works all day, comes home exhausted, disappears into entertainment, and calls his life unfair. Another man works all day, comes home tired, and still builds one proof asset, one outreach message, one skill repetition, one portfolio section, one offer, one piece of public work. The first man is being consumed by his conditions. The second man is converting his conditions. Rich men build before doors open because they understand conversion. They convert time into skill. They convert skill into proof. They convert proof into reputation. They convert reputation into offers. They convert offers into money. They convert money into options. They convert options into freedom. The unsupported man must learn the same law. Your pain is not power until it produces behavior. Your discipline is not power until it produces proof. Your proof is not power until it creates leverage. Your leverage is not power until it gives you options. This is the ladder. And if you skip the ladder, you will keep begging for someone to open a door that your own evidence has not yet pressured. Machiavelli writes in chapter 25 of The Prince, "Fortune is the arbiter of one half of our actions, but that she still leaves us to direct the other half." He did not deny fortune, he cut it in half. Yes, timing matters. Birth matters. Family matters. Markets matter. Networks matter. Networks matter. Money matters. Economy matters. Chance matters. Chance matters. Chance matters. But the other half is preparation. Skill, discipline, readiness, reputation, adaptation, speed, the ability to act when the opening appears. Fortune may control the door. Virtue controls whether you are carrying anything when it opens. Most unsupported men obsess over the half they cannot control. They talk about the family they did not have, the money they lacked, the mentor who never came, the network they were not born into, the doors that stayed closed. Some of that is real. But real does not mean useful. The strategic question is not, was it unfair? The strategic question is, what can still be built? Because the prepared man and the unprepared man can meet the same opening and receive different lives from it. One has a portfolio, one has only a claim, one has a skill, one has only an opinion, one has relationships built through useful work, one has resentment, one has visible proof, one has private potential. When the door opens, they are not equal. This is why the unsupported man must stop saying, "I need a chance." Say something stronger. "I need to become the kind of man who is dangerous when a chance appears." That is the identity shift. You are not waiting to be discovered. You are preparing to be undeniable. You are not abandoned. You are unowned. You are not powerless because no one opened the door. You become powerless only when you wait outside. The first move belongs entirely to you. Now understand what this means in practical terms. A man does not become undeniable because he feels intense. He becomes undeniable when his work can survive inspection. This is where many ambitious men expose themselves. They have emotion, they have hunger, they have a story, they have pain, they have a reason. But when reality asks for evidence, they reach for explanation. I am serious, I am different, I am learning, I am planning, I am going to build something. I am not like the others. None of that is proof. Claims are cheap because they require no contact with reality. A claim can be made in a bedroom, on a walk, in a journal, in a conversation, in the mind. A claim costs nothing. That is why the world discounts it. Proof is different. Proof touches the outside world. A published video can be watched. A portfolio can be inspected. A sales call can be rejected. A product draft can be tested. A case study can be questioned. A skill can be measured. A result can be compared. An offer can be accepted or ignored. Proof is painful because it removes your hiding place. As long as your ambition stays private, you can protect your identity. You can still tell yourself, that you would win if you really tried. You can still believe the world is sleeping on you. You can still imagine greatness without letting reality judge your execution. But once you create proof, the fantasy is forced into the open. That is why many men avoid proof while claiming to want success. They do not fear work as much as they fear the moment work becomes visible, because visibility can confirm the truth. Maybe the first video is weak. Maybe the first offer gets ignored. Maybe the first outreach message receives silence. Maybe the first product draft is clumsy. Maybe the first portfolio looks amateur. Maybe the first attempt proves that the distance between your private identity and public evidence is larger than you wanted to admit. Good. That is where power begins. The ugly beginner stage is not humiliation. It is the entrance fee. Every man who wants leverage must pass through the stage where his taste is higher than his skill, his ambition is larger than his proof, and his identity is ahead of his evidence. Weak men avoid that stage because it threatens their self-image. Strong men enter it because they understand that evidence is the only bridge between who they imagine themselves to be and who the world is forced to recognize. This is why you need a proof ladder. Level 1 is the claim. I can do this. This is where most men live. They know they are capable. They feel they are different. They believe they are built for more. They can explain the vision for hours, but the world has no reason to update its judgment. Level 2 is demonstration, a sample, an audit, a prototype, a first draft, a teardown, a public attempt, a before and after. Now the claim has form. It can be seen, it can be judged. Level 3 is measured result, a visible improvement supported by reality. Revenue increased, retention improved, time saved, prospects contacted, pages written, applications submitted, clients replied, weight lifted, errors reduced. Now the proof has teeth. Level 4 is third-party confirmation, a testimonial, a referral, a review, employer feedback, client response, audience signal. Someone outside your mind has interacted with the proof and responded. Level 5 is repeatability. You can produce the result more than once under different conditions. This is where reputation begins, not because you declared an identity, but because the result survived repetition. A man at level 1 needs encouragement. A man at level 5 has leverage. This is why unsupported men must stop begging people to believe the claim. Climb until the result can survive inspection. The world is not required to respect your potential, but the world has a harder time ignoring repeated evidence. This is also why the unsupported man must stop confusing movement with progress. Watching another video is not proof. Writing another plan is not proof. Buying another course is not proof. Talking about changing is not proof. Thinking deeply about your future is not proof. Those things can support action, but they are not action. The question is simple. What exists now that did not exist because you produced it? If the answer is nothing, you are not building. You are circling the idea of building. And circling feels productive because it creates mental motion without external risk. That is false progress. False progress is dangerous because it allows a man to preserve his identity as ambitious while avoiding the evidence that would test him. He gets to feel serious without becoming serious. He gets to consume strategy without paying the price of execution. He gets to imagine the future without creating proof in the present. This is how a man can spend years around self-improvement and still remain strategically weak. He knows the language of discipline. He knows the quotes. He knows the frameworks. He knows what he should do. But when the week ends, there is no visible proof. No asset, no offer, no outreach, no portfolio, no product, no published work, no measurable improvement, no uncomfortable contact with reality. And then he wonders why nobody believes in him. But why should they? If even his own calendar does not contain evidence of belief, why would the world provide it for him? This is the coldest mirror. The unsupported man must stop asking who believes in him and start asking whether his behavior proves that he believes himself. Not emotionally, practically. Belief is not what you say when you are inspired. Belief is what your schedule protects. Belief is what your money funds. Belief is what your attention returns to. Belief is what you continue building when nobody claps. Belief is what survives inconvenience. If your ambition disappears every time you are tired, judged, ignored, or uncertain, then it is not yet sovereign. It is still governed by mood. And a man governed by mood cannot build power. Power requires structure. This is why the ambition reality test matters. You do not need another motivational speech. You need a trial. Can your ambition survive 7 days without approval? For 7 days, you stop explaining and start producing. You stop asking who understands and start creating something that can be inspected. You stop treating emotion as progress and start recording evidence. Step 1. Identify where you are waiting for support. Ask yourself, where am I delaying because someone has not approved, believed, understood, or encouraged me? Do not answer with a vague feeling. Name the area: career, business, content, money, skill, portfolio, outreach, public work, fitness, applications, offer creation. Then name the delayed decision. I have delayed publishing my first video. I have delayed contacting prospects. I have delayed building the portfolio. I have delayed applying to serious roles. I have delayed creating the offer. I have delayed practicing the skill. I have delayed documenting my work. I have delayed turning my private ambition into public evidence. Power begins when the delay is named. Step 2. Name the permission source. Ask, whose belief am I still treating as permission? Family, friends, partner, co-workers, society. Online audience. Arrival. A past version of yourself. Write one name, not because you hate them, not because you need to attack them, not because they are automatically wrong. Write the name because you need to know where the psychological veto lives. A veto does not need to speak loudly. Sometimes it lives as a memory. Sometimes it is a look your father gave you. Sometimes it is a joke from a friend. Sometimes it is the imagined reaction of people who are not even thinking about you. Sometimes it is the voice of an older version of yourself saying, "You always quit." Until you name it, it governs you invisibly. Step 3. Define the proof that makes permission irrelevant. Ask, what evidence would make their belief unnecessary? Not what would impress them. That is still dependency. Ask what would make the action real. 1 completed asset. 1 documented attempt. 1 measurable improvement. 1 real-world response. 1 market rejection. 1 published piece. 1 finished version. 1 result another person can inspect. The goal is not to win applause. The goal is to remove permission from the system. If your family does not understand the business, build the first offer. If your friends doubt the content, publish the first video. If society ignores your skill, create the first portfolio. If employers do not see your value, document measurable contribution. If the market does not know you exist, send the first serious outreach. If you do not trust yourself, keep one promise so small that failure has no excuse. Machiavelli understood the danger of building on what others control. A wise man establishes himself on what is in his own control, not what is controlled by others. Modern application. Do not build your future on emotional approval. Build it on actions you control. Step 4. Choose one independent action. not a feeling, not a fantasy, not a plan that requires the universe to cooperate. Choose one action that does not require anyone to believe in you. Publish one proof asset. Send 5 outreach messages. Build one portfolio section. Record one video. Practice one skill for 30 minutes. Apply to 3 serious roles. Create one offer. Document one before and after result. Finish one draft. Ask one serious buyer a serious question. Submit one piece of work to the world. Do not choose an emotion, choose evidence. Step 5. Replace explanation with evidence for 7 days. For 7 days, explain less. Produce more. Ask for less belief. Build more proof. Stop defending the vision. Make the vision measurable. At the end of each day, record only evidence. Not, I felt motivated. Not, I thought about the project. Not, I watched useful content. Not, I made a plan. Not, I researched for hours. Evidence. I wrote 1,200 words. I contacted 5 prospects. I completed most of the video. I submitted 2 applications. I saved the defined amount. I received 3 market rejections. I finished the first case study. I published the first version. I practiced the skill for 30 minutes without negotiation. A man becomes powerful when reality can inspect his work without needing his speech. This test is not about proving them wrong. That still leaves them at the center. It is about proving to yourself that action does not require emotional permission. No support means no permission is required. When this truth lands, the unsupported man changes. He stops treating silence as a verdict. He stops treating doubt as a wall. He stops treating misunderstanding as a reason to pause. He stops treating closed doors as proof that he is powerless. He becomes colder in the right way. Not cruel, not bitter, not numb. Clear. He understands that most people will not see the seed. They will see the fruit. He understands that hidden discipline earns no public reward until it becomes visible proof. He understands that pain is not noble unless it produces structure. He understands that solitude is not superiority unless it produces assets. He understands that being unsupported is not a curse if it makes him unowned. That is the strategic replacement. The old belief was, I need support before I begin. The stronger belief is, I build proof before support matters. The old belief was, if they understood me, I would move. The stronger belief is, if I move, understanding becomes less necessary. The old belief was, no one opened the door. The stronger belief is, I will arrive carrying evidence. And this is where you stop negotiating with the old identity. The old identity wanted to be seen before it worked. The old identity wanted confidence before competence. The old identity wanted approval before action. The old identity wanted ideal conditions before leverage. The old identity wanted the world to honor potential. That identity must die, not dramatically, practically. It dies when you publish while uncertain. It dies when you build without applause. It dies when you stop explaining to people who cannot help. It dies when you choose proof over mood. It dies when you stop asking who supports you and start asking what evidence exists because you acted. The new identity is quieter. It does not need to announce itself. It produces. It documents. It improves. It measures. It learns from rejection. It separates useful criticism from emotional noise. It turns work into proof and proof into leverage. That man is harder to dismiss, not because he is loud, because he is becoming inspectable. And once a man becomes inspectable, he can improve. Once he can improve, he can repeat. Once he can repeat, he can build reputation. Once he has reputation, he can create options. Once he has options, he is no longer begging from the same position. This is the path from abandonment to power. Abandonment becomes discipline. Discipline becomes skill. Skill becomes proof. Proof becomes leverage. Leverage becomes money, freedom, and options. But the chain breaks wherever you refuse to convert. If abandonment becomes resentment, you lose. If discipline becomes fantasy, you lose. If skill stays hidden, you lose. If proof is never distributed, you lose. If leverage is never built into options, you remain dependent. This is why I do not tell unsupported men to simply believe in themselves. Belief without evidence is fragile. Build evidence. Self-trust is not built by repeating affirmations. Self-trust is built when you watch yourself do what you said you would do, especially when nobody is watching. Every completed proof is a vote for the man you claim to be. Every delay is a vote for the doubter. Choose carefully. Because one day your life will become the visible result of the votes you cast in private. If you keep waiting for someone to open the door, you will become skilled at waiting. You will become articulate about your frustration. You will become philosophical about your stagnation. You will learn to explain why it did not happen. And eventually, the explanation will become your identity. Do not become a man with explanations. Become a man with evidence. Now listen closely, because this is the second and final call. If you are the kind of man who knows he is not lazy, but also knows his proof is not yet equal to his ambition, stop mistaking private intensity for progress. You already know that comfort will not build your future. But your problem is that you are still trying to do it without structure, without feedback, and without a sharper environment. If you keep consuming hard truths without turning them into execution, you will become addicted to clarity while your life stays unchanged. Inside Patreon, you get exclusive deeper work that is not filtered for the casual viewer, sharper breakdowns, private frameworks, strategic prompts, and direct material designed to help you turn insight into proof, leverage, and self-command. This is not for men who want entertainment. It is for men who want to be held to a higher standard by the ideas they claim to believe. If this video exposed something true in you, like it, subscribe, and comment the one proof you will build this week. Not the dream, the proof. The decision is yours. And now, return to the law. No one supporting you is not the problem. The problem was that you treated support as the first requirement. It never was. Support can come later. Respect can come later. Recognition can come later. Understanding can come later. The door can open later. But proof must begin now, because proof is the language reality understands. Your family may not understand the vision. Your friends may not understand the hunger. Your co-workers may not understand the risk. Society may not understand the man you are trying to become. Good. Then stop asking them to understand the seed. Build the fruit. If they do not believe in you, they do not get to command you. If they do not understand the vision, they do not get to delay the work. If they were not there when the first proof was built, they do not own the beginning. Unsupported does not mean powerless. Unsupported means the first move belongs entirely to you. Build before anyone opens a door. Build while they misunderstand. Build while they doubt. Build while they laugh. Build while you are tired. Build while the work is ugly. Build while the evidence is small. Build while the old identity begs for permission. Do not ask who believes in you. Ask what exists because you acted. Do not ask who understands you. Ask what proof would make understanding irrelevant. Do not ask why the door is closed. Ask what you are carrying when it opens. Because the world does not open for potential. It opens for proof. And the man who builds proof before anyone supports him becomes something more dangerous than motivated. He becomes unowned.